Hey you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back to another December daily video. So in this video, I'm going to be doing days 23 through 25. And before I get started, I just want to show you that a change that I made on day 21. So if you remember, if you saw my last video, if you haven't, go ahead and check it out. I have it linked below. But I had two of these 3x8 page protectors here. These cards were in that pocket, and I remember thinking, I don't know if I loved it. And after editing the video and coming back after a few days, I decided to go ahead and change it. So I took this snowflake that was right here in the page protector and I just moved it over. So I just took off, it was actually this magic diamond, if you recall, took that off there and then just went ahead and put that up there at the top. And then I added the joy here at the bottom. And then I took this pad of paper that I ended up finding, which is awesome. I took this pad of paper, put it between these two 3x4 cards, punched some holes in it, and then just stuck it right into the album. I really like that I didn't have to punch holes into the card. That was one of the issues that I was having. So I like the way that that turned out, and I like the way that that looked. Then I just took that joy and stuck it here right here on the 3x4 card. It used to be right here at the top. So anyway, that is a change that I made for day 21. And then I am gonna start working on, this is day 22. Oh, and I took this transparency, moved it to this 3x8, and then moved over this photo. So I'm gonna start working on day, oh, and this isn't tiered down, I think because I wasn't 100% sure what I was gonna do maybe with this. So I was anticipating maybe putting something clear on the other side, and I think I may do that. We'll see for day 23. So that's what I'm gonna be working on right now. So the first thing that I'm going to do is work on my photo. So if you remember back on day 5, I printed out from my Instax printer a photo. I'd actually taken that photo with my Canon. This happened to be a photo that I took with my iPhone, and I'm just grabbing it off my phone and then I'm going to be printing it. If you are interested in getting a little bit more details of how I'm doing this, I do have a video on my YouTube channel and I will link it above and also link it below. So if you want to print on an Instax, some Instax film from your Instax printer, you can go ahead and do that as well. Of course, if you have the camera, you could just use your camera to take the picture and then you could have an Instax, or you could just go ahead and print a 3x4 photo, you know, however you want it to be. But I really wanted it to, I just like the idea of having this an Instax. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about day 23. This is definitely going to be more simple. And you can see the green envelope on this side. This is where I'm going to put my journaling. And essentially, the story that I'm telling on day 23 is a story that's been sitting on my heart for at least that last week before Christmas. It was the story that I thought about telling on day 19 when I did my gratitude journal. My gratitude list. And I just decided to, you know, the story doesn't need to be told, but it just kept coming up and kept coming up and kept coming up. And so while I was not planning on including the story in this album, I just felt like I needed to tell it in that way it would kind of release and that I would be able to start healing and move on from it. And since it's more of a challenging topic and one that is really tender to my heart, I decided to write a letter to my girls. I thought that that would be the best way to be able to express this story to them. I actually don't go into any detail about this particular story, but really this letter is about when things are hard, and especially during Christmas, that sometimes old feelings pop up that you thought were maybe resolved that haven't been. And so I talked a little bit about how you deal with that and the best way to go about handling it, and always having compassion for yourself, for others, just things like that. So I decided the best way to approach it would be to write a letter. And it's not something that I feel like needs to be front and center in the album. So I just went ahead and put it in the green envelope. So that way, when they're looking through the album in a few years and, when they're ready, they can read that letter, and hopefully it will, help them if in challenging times, and help them to be able to work through some of those difficulties that come up in their life now and again, because we all have to face them from time to time. All right, so let's jump back into the spread now that I've kind of explained what this story is all about. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm taking this envelope and I am punching out the holes so it will just go right inside the album that way. That envelope, if you are interested, came from Paper Source, and I think the color may be clove. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I will have it linked below. So some of the things I was doing as I was talking away is that transparent heart that says real life on there. That actually came from Allie Edwards' Love Story Kit, and it actually is from January, so it is available to snag that kit if you would like. In fact, as I'm saying it, I think those hearts were part of an add-on, and I'm not sure if those are still available. Maybe they are available through the month that you can grab if you have subscribed to. So go ahead and check out her website if you are interested. It is a great kit, and I'm really looking forward to playing with it once I'm done with December Daily. The last thing that I'm trying to figure out with this day, and I think it's the thing that I do the most in December Daily, is where am I going to put the number? So I was thinking about putting it in that available 3x4 spot that you can see that there's nothing in there. But when I recognized that I had this envelope that was just kind of plain, I wanted to add something to it. And so I thought adding the number would be great for that. I pulled over the white, and luckily I did have a 23 in the white numbers. I think that came in last year's kit. And then the black 23, that was an add-on for this year's. I just grabbed over both of those, and I'm trying to debate which I liked better. You'll see in the end that I end up going with the white 23, and I had asked a couple of my daughters their opinions, and they liked the white as well. So I just went ahead. I do go ahead and do the white, but before that, you'll see that I'm looking at adding maybe some more of those phrase stickers. I added one to the photo, and I thought maybe it would be a good idea to add more. Because I go with the white number, I don't end up using those phrase stickers, but I definitely love those, and we'll probably see that when I work on Project Life for December. So, all the supplies that you don't end up using, I end up using it in Project Life, which is a lot of fun. All right, so now you can see that I'm putting my attention towards that blank 3x4 space that I need to deal with. I'm also thinking about that, and while I think about that, I'm moving on to finish off the number. So I've decided to go with the white and not to put on that word phrase sticker. So I just took that off, and now I'm using this Scor-Tape. I'm cutting it in half. It's a 1/4 of an inch, so I'm cutting it to like 1/8 of an inch just so it will stick onto the back of these numbers. I really like using this when I'm adding anything outside the page protectors, just because it holds really securely. So that's why I went ahead and used that instead of just the roller adhesive. So now you can see that I'm adding a heart right onto that wood veneer. It says Holiday Love, and then I'm trying to decide what I want to put on the back of it, and I'm going to probably use one of these. Yeah, I think I used one of these Starbursts. And instead of using the rolling adhesive, I decided to use the glue. I think I did that because I wanted to be able to get it on right. And using the liquid glue, it gives you some time to move things around before it's definitely stuck into place. And then one of those little rays, I guess you'd call it, fell off. They're very fragile. I found out that the numbers are very fragile too. So just be careful when using the cork. So I just went ahead and glued it back on, and it literally went in place like a puzzle. So that was really nice. And then I knew I had to do something to keep this embellishment from falling out, just because it was heavy. I thought it would probably fall out of my album. And so I just went ahead and I stapled it on there, and I just stapled it. I pulled up the cork board and then I stapled it on there. So that way it would, when the cork board is stuck to the wood, then they would all stick together and it wouldn't move. So that's how I went ahead and handled that. All right, you guys, now I am moving on to day 24. So I feel like day 24 and day 25 are always the same. It's basically a celebration of what we're doing on Christmas Eve and then on Christmas Day. So this is really the beginning of our, Christmas celebrations. So one of the things that I talked about doing in my supply, I think it was my supply video, I had this die cut set. This is from My Favorite Things, and I can't remember exactly what it's called. I think it might be 3 window, something like that, but I will have it linked below. And I wanted to make a bunch of windows that I would be able to add photos and embellishments to. And that was kind of my plan, and I hadn't used it yet. I hadn't done it. So I decided, you know what? No time like the present. So I decided to do it for day 24 because I knew that I would have a variety of photos that I had taken. And because I also knew that I'd be putting it in Project Life, I didn't feel like I needed them to be like full size photos. So I thought this would be a really fun option. And of course, something playful as well. And so you can see that I just die cut them 3 times and I put them all in a row. And I did move them off to the right, and so the left is a little bit thicker. That way, because I knew that I'd be punching holes in it, and I didn't want it to really mess with my die cuts at all. And now I am trimming off the bottom as well. So this turns out to be 6 inches by 7.5. And if I had had a larger die cut, I would have wanted this to be a little bit bigger. But because my die cut machine could only cut, or it would only allow paper through it that was 6 inches, I went with the max that I could do. But there are some die cutting machines out there that allow you to do a little bit thicker. So if you have a thicker die cut, you may want to do it a little bit more. But ultimately, I thought that the die cut really worked with 6 inches. It allowed for a nice border on each side. So I think maybe hindsight, even if I could go a little bit bigger, maybe I would only do 6 inches. So right now what I'm doing is I'm testing these out because early on I realized that these little photos that I printed were too short. They weren't long enough. And so I'm going to need to print them again. But my daughter was sitting at my computer doing some homework. So I wasn't able to just go sit down on my computer right at that moment. So I decided to cut them out. Maybe there'd be a couple that would fit, but then I could just kind of play around with everything, play around with some embellishments and see how I wanted everything to fit. So that's really what I'm doing here. You can see that I'm also pulling over those chipboards and I'm looking for the day 24 or number 24 because I definitely want to add that into one of the little sections. So I'm going to do it on the top right. And then I'm pulling over my chipboards and my other embellishments and just kind of looking at what else I can add into that section. And that way, once my daughter gets off the computer and I can go ahead and print that stuff out, then I will just be able to put this together so much easier. So I'm grabbing over some cards that have some pattern papers on there. What I'm trying to do is find a pattern that's a little bit more neutral because I didn't want the 24 to get lost in the pattern paper. So you can see that I'm pulling over some more patterns that are a little bit more neutral so that 24 can really stand out. I don't think that's the paper that I end up using, but you kind of get the idea of where I was going. And then I'm looking to put some paper behind some of the other embellishments as well. And, as I'm working on this and as I'm doing this, it kind of occurred to me that it could be cool to have some of those see-through. So you'll see, I think the top one, I end up putting like a star on there. And I thought, you know what? I know what I want to do. Yeah, you can see that the star is coming out. On the backside, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a photo and then I'm going to have some journaling. And I thought, I could just cut a hole in the journaling before I actually write it out. And then I could have that be kind of a see-through element. So I thought that would be a really fun for this piece, just even add a little bit more playfulness to it already. This is already feeling pretty playful. So I thought that it would add just another layer of play. All right, so I'm again looking for more papers. Like I said, it's not like I'm wasting time, but as I've got time just sitting here, I'm just kind of looking for the best thing to be able to use. I think ultimately I do like that white one with the black leaves on it. So you can see that I took a break and I actually printed out these photos. I was really bummed. These photos kind of printed out a little pinky. They were kind of sepia looking. And I literally had just printed the photos that I was using right before. So I don't know, that one was a little bit more blue or gray, and this one looked a little bit more sepia. I have no idea how that happened. So I printed it out twice, and that both printed the exact same. Perhaps my ink is running out, but I just didn't think so because I felt like I just replaced it, but maybe it is. It didn't give me like a notification that it was running out. But anyway, so I'm cutting those all up and I'm putting them all in place. I'm not going to worry about it because it's not going to be against any other black and white that's pretty gray. So I'm just going to leave it since they're all the same color. But I really do wish it had been a little bit more gray. So you can see that I'm just now assembling everything together. So it's easy now that I've done all the work before that I could just assemble this and it's going to go really quickly. So the reason why I keep moving this one off and on is I just want to make sure that the pattern paper is fitting inside that section so it looks good, so there's not like some white holes. There was a couple white holes on the edge. And then I'm going to go ahead and use that same Tombow Mono liquid adhesive just because it was sitting right there, and it seems to work really well with the cork board, and that way I don't have to worry about that cork board falling off in the future. So now I'm also cutting out this pattern paper that came from that 3x4 card, and I'm just going to be sticking it on there. Now that I have that pattern paper in place, I'm just going to go ahead and put that Joy chipboard in place. I was really happy to finally be able to use that one. All right, so this is the photo that I'm going to be using on the back side. So I told you that I wanted to do that star at the top as kind of a transparency, but I was also thinking that it would be fun to do that same thing with the heart. But I didn't know where it was going to land on the photo, and I realized that it actually gets pretty close. It's kind of silly in that it ends up cutting out my husband's chest. And, you know, putting a heart there, I thought maybe it looked a little bit silly because it almost looked like it was his heart. I don't know. I can't really explain it. I do end up cutting it out, and you'll see it in just a second, what it ends up looking like. I ended up asking him, my husband, what he thought, if he thought it looked weird or if he thought it looked cool, and he actually liked it. So as of now, I've kept it. But at first I really wasn't sure because I thought, does this look weird? But I think with the star in there, it doesn't look near as weird. So if you're looking at it going, this looks kind of strange, I think when you see it finished, it doesn't look near as strange as when I first saw it. So hopefully that makes sense. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the cardstock. And as I was cutting out the cardstock, I was really thinking about the story I wanted to tell here, which was all about my husband's brother who is Downs and also autistic. And he just loves Christmas. He loves his birthday as well. And so he really brings something very special to our holiday. And so I was thinking about this story that I wanted to tell. And as I was putting it together, I thought, you know what? My husband would be the best person to tell this story. So I end up cutting this all out, and you'll see that I'm putting all this in place so I know exactly how to cut it and how big to make it. So I end up cutting all this out, and then I draw some lines just in pencil. And I took the pen and the paper down to my husband and asked him if he wouldn't mind just writing some journaling. And I think because the story was about his brother, I think he was more than happy to do that for me. So I was really happy for the opportunity to get another voice in this album. So I was glad that he was willing and able to do it right then, because I really wanted to finish this day. So now that I cut out the hole with the X-Acto, I'm going to go ahead and create this see-through. So I knew that I needed something for these pieces to sit on. So I just cut out one of the page protectors that I had already like cut out and used. So I just cut out a section of that, and I'm gluing the gold star right to it, and then I'm going to glue the other star right on top of it. So it's going to be the same star, just kind of mirroring each other back to back. So that's going to end up being floating in the middle there. And I think it ends up looking really cool when I'm done. So now that my husband did all the journaling, I'm just going to go ahead and go around the outside with a black marker. I was thinking about underlining what he wrote as well, but I decided to just leave the pencil. I kind of liked the way that looked, so I just went ahead and left it as the pencil. And now you can see that I'm needing to I have to pull those two apart to be able to adhere those together. And then I'm just going to get this star in place. And you guys, I don't know. It was a lot of fun working on this day, and I just felt like this was really cool. So I was excited that I gave it a shot. So now I'm going to work on the heart one as well. So I'm just, again, cutting out some of this this page protector that I had left over. And then I'm just going to do the exact same thing that I did, but this time I'm going to use the heart adhesive just because I actually have adhesive on the heart where I had already pulled off the adhesive on those stars. And then I'm just going to put them back to back. They are very similar. They're not 100% similar, but they're similar enough that you can't really tell the difference. So now I'm adding the washi tape right on the hearts so that I will be able to, when I put them in between, that they will stay in place because there's no other adhesive around it. So anyway, it was actually really easy to make it. It wasn't hard at all to put this together. And like I said, probably like 10 other times, it was a lot of fun to do. So I would encourage you guys to do it. All right, so now I'm going to punch holes right into the cardstock just because it's not going to go into a page protector or anything like that. It's just going to sit right on the outside. And now I'm looking at the, I was actually thinking about using that transparency for Christmas to kind of like start my Christmas, but I don't know, because the 24th is already the start of a celebration, I thought it would be fun to put it right on top of there. And then I'm going to put the Mary right on top of it. And so I'm using this roller adhesive. I actually thought about using the liquid adhesive, but I thought that that would maybe show through to the other side. And so I decided to use that roller adhesive. And now I am ready to work on Christmas Day. So I end up taking a lot of pictures on Christmas morning, but I don't feel like I take any pictures after that. Or if I do, it's only a few. And so really the bulk of this day is going to be all about the morning time. So I'm starting out with doing a full 6x8 photo on both sides. I'm just going to be slipping it into a transparency. So one of them is of our Christmas tree and what it looks like with all the presents underneath it, just kind of like this is the first thing my kids are going to see. And then that photo on the back side is actually a photo that we took kind of right after we had opened up all the Christmas presents and right before we were having breakfast together as a family. So I actually used my silhouette, you guys. I was planning on using my silhouette the whole month, and this is the first time that I pulled it out. So one of the things that kept coming to my mind as I was working on this album throughout the month, or something that I wanted to try, was a large letter. So I had seen this, Brandy Kincaid did this large letter 8. And honestly, I can't remember if it was this year or if it was last year, but I just remember seeing this large green 8. And I just loved it and thought that it would be something fun to do. And I thought it would be great to do on day 25, is have this large letter 8. So I'd kind of envisioned it somewhere on my album. And so I decided to do it for the last day. So I ended up just creating this in Photoshop, or maybe it was Illustrator. You could do it with either. You could also do it with Word. Ultimately, you just need to do a big number, and then you need to pull it into your silhouette and cut it out. And I was specifically looking for a number that would allow me to put it in, to punch it in right into the album. So I was looking for some, some length at the bottom and length at the top that I could punch holes into. I can't remember the exact font, but I will have it linked below if you are interested in doing something similar. And because of the way it cut out with my silhouette, the bottom is together, but the top was separated. So I knew when you'd be like moving it around in the album, it would be flopping around. So I thought the best thing to do would just adhere them together. And so I grabbed over that transparency that came from, grabbed over that chipboard. It came from the Paislee Press chipboard set, and it in the kit, and I think it says all of us together or something like that. But I just added that. I like the way it looks, but I also added it because it does have a function. It keeps the 2 and the 5 at the top together. All right, so now I am just working on putting the few photos that I printed out. I didn't print out everything. I just kind of printed out a few that I thought really best represented the morning. So I had a couple 4x6s, and then I have some more 3x4s. And you saw that I cut all those out. And then I actually have this 3x4 card that's in there right now. We took those. It says on there, "Welcome to the world of Apple Music." So that was part of my girls' gift, is we gifted them Apple Music. It was like the one thing that they kept saying when I would say, "What is it that you really want?" They kept saying Apple Music. So instead of spending the money on iTunes cards, we decided to buy ourselves iTunes cards that we would be able to then pay for Apple Music throughout the year. So we're trying it out for the year. That's the gift, that one of the gifts that they got. So I thought that it would be fun to include the actual piece that we gave them right into one of the pockets. And so now you can see that I'm slipping in some photos, and I'm cutting up some cards. This Bring on the Merry, I've been wanting to use this the whole time. And so I'm just cutting it up, trying to decide what's going to make this centered. I definitely want it to be centered in the middle. So I'm using that other photo to kind of help me there. And then I'm just going to slip it into the pocket. One of the things that I noticed this year, and I can't remember if it was last year as well, but the quality of the cards in Allie's kit were so awesome. She did such a great job with this kit. Was so happy with it. So that card was pretty thick. I had to cut it down a little bit more than I thought I would have to, a little bit more than 3 inches just to get it into the pocket. But no complaints here. I really, really loved the quality of the cards, and that they were thicker. All right, so I'm again just adding some more photos and going through my stash of 3x4 cards and deciding what I want to use. I'm actually looking for the stuff that I love the most that I want to get into my album, like that card that says Merry Happy Everything. I think that came in the Paislee Press kit. I've been wanting to use that the entire month. So I was happy to be able to get that one in there. That wish card as well. I thought that would be a great journaling card to be able to tell a little bit of a story. I think I ended up telling a story about just how I just wish for that feeling that we had on Christmas to, that we would have that feeling all year long, just to keep that Christmas spirit. So I think I typed that out on the typewriter, but I am way jumping ahead. Don't mean to do that. All right, so I'm looking at this black and white photo that I'm anticipating putting in the album. I don't really have a spot for it, and I can't really grab over another page protector because I don't have any more photos. So I'm thinking about just adding it just on the inside, but I'm also thinking that I want to add a little bit more journaling as well. So I pull over that tag. I believe that's what Allie did on hers. I think it's great to be able to either do a photo or maybe some journaling on the back side of that tag. So I'm thinking about adding, printing out that black and white photo again, but ultimately what I decide to do is add journaling right to the back of it, because I wanted to add a little bit more journaling about this day. I don't always add journaling about Christmas. Like I kind of think, every Christmas is the same and it can speak for itself, but really there is a lot of things that go on during Christmas. And I just felt like I had a lot more that I had to say. So I went ahead and I printed it out. It was 4x8. And now I'm just going to adhere it down. Before I cut it out 100% completely, I like to adhere it down. And then I like to cut it out once they are adhered together. So I'm just going to cut that paper down. And then you'll see that I end up cutting a hole at the top. And one of the things, I'm going to punch that hole right at the top and then end up putting the ribbon and twine through. One of the things that I realized with working on this tag is I did not think about punching holes on the outside of it. So I thought, man, am I going to have to go and reprint this again? But I go ahead and I try just punching it out. And I end up really liking the way that it worked. I mean, it didn't actually punch through any of my journaling. So I thought that was really awesome. So I don't end up having to print it out again, but the type is pretty close to some of the punch holes, but it's not that big of a deal. I was really, I really wanted to get this done, and I was really happy that I didn't have to go ahead and do it all again. So instead of tying this one up, I'm just going to go ahead and staple it just so it's not too bulky in the album, feeling like the album's getting pretty bulky. I wanted to add something to the bottom of that tag, so I just grabbed over this chipboard that says peace and joy. It's really, really skinny, so it would fit right at the bottom there. And that chipboard set came from the add-on chipboard set. I'm really glad that I got that. Like I've told you guys before, chipboards are one of my favorite embellishments. And so it was fun to just be able to have like a ton to use. So you can see that I was also anticipating whether or not I wanted to add that photo in. I don't end up adding that there. I think I just didn't want another thing to add, but I actually could put it right in between these two page protectors, but I don't end up doing that. I think it's because that was one of the first photos I took of my girls that day, and I didn't want to put it like in the middle. Chronologically, it didn't go. I don't know why I was caring or worrying about that. So I think what I'll end up doing with that photo is just putting it in my project life, and that's great. It doesn't need to be in both albums. I definitely do want it to be in one though. So you can see that I moved some cards around, and I think it's because I didn't want to have... I can't now remember what it was. I think I wanted, because the tag was covering that transparency, I think I wanted the transparency to be on the outside of the tag so that you would be able to see it better. I think that's why I moved everything around. And now I just grabbed that 3x4 card that says wish, and I'm just typing out a little bit of journaling. And like I said, I think I say, I hope and pray, and just talk about that I want to be able to take this feeling, my heart was so full of joy that day, and take that feeling and keep it going and moving forward throughout the holiday season, but also beyond as we begin 2018. So I'm just looking at my embellishments and seeing what more I can add to this day just to give it a little bit something more. So I end up adding that chipboard that says celebrating the season with friends and family, or it says something like that. And then I grab over this diamond shaped chipboard that says Christmas is awesome. I've been wanting to use that as well. So I go ahead and add that to the red stripes. I think this is the point maybe where I move those red stripes over. I think I moved those red stripes. But I'm taking out all the page protectors. You can see all those page protectors that I have left over that I'll be able to use for other projects, which is so nice. I was looking at those two cards. So the Merry Happy Everything and Bring on the Merry. For some reason, I just didn't want all that type to be there. And so that's why I decided to bring up the red striped card. So I switch it out. I think I wanted a little bit more color as well. And then I'm looking to cover up that stripe, because then the red stripe and the black stripe, I didn't like those next to one another. So I just grabbed over the remainder of that tag. If you recall, I had cut it out already. So I just used the remainder of it, and then I just stick it into the pocket. Now I'm going to adhere that chipboard on. I'm using the tweezers because oftentimes your hands get in the way and you don't know if it's centered. So that tweezers really help me to get my hands out of the way so I can see if it's centered. And then I think I'm almost done, but I'm just going to add a few more things. I'm going to go ahead and add the joy right onto that photo there at the bottom. And then I want to add something to that Merry Happy Everything card. I grab over this gold star. I can't remember if I think this may have come in last year's kit, and I just had leftovers. So it's just tiny gold star there. I thought that just added, and then it looked a lot like the Bring on the Merry that had the star at the top too, so it kind of fit in there. And then it fit in with the gold that I put with the polka dots. And you can see that I'm trying to fit in that Christmas morning, but I think that I'll try and get that in my project life instead of in this album. And then I'm just going to add this Christmas or Celebrate the Magic right there on the bottom of the envelope. I feel like I wanted a little something on there, so I'm just going to add it right there to the bottom. And I believe, you guys, I am completely finished with days 23 through 25, but also completely finished with my album. Really excited to have this finished. I had thought about maybe going to 31 and doing 31 stories, but I just decided when I was finished with this that I was completely done with the album. So I really, really love the process of working through this album, and I love looking through it and to be able to see the stories from the entire month. In fact, I went all the way back to the beginning, and I couldn't believe that was just a few weeks ago. It felt like so long ago. Anyway, you guys, that is a wrap with my 2017 December daily album. Thank you so much for joining me for the entire month and for catching up with me with my process videos. If you have any questions about anything that I've done, please leave them in the comment section below, and I will definitely get back to you. Again, thank you guys so much for being here, and we will catch you in 2018 for some Project Life videos. Bye.